Hey everyone, welcome to episode 10 of the Noor Podcast. Today we have an amazing guest. Her name is Brooke. She's a geologist, and we're just going to spend some time talking about what she's done with her life, what it's like to be a geologist, the industry that she works in, just to get to know the ins and outs of the mining industry, what it's like to look for minerals in the earth and to find it. And I think there's just a lot of information that I personally didn't know about before. And we had a really good chat and can't wait for all of you to hear it. Why don't we start off with just Brooke, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so I grew up on an olive tree farm just outside of Port Pirie in the country. I pretty much had decided I wanted to be a geo by the time I was 13 because I just kept picking up rocks, family little trips, and Dad mentioned it was actually a job, and I was like, great, that sounds great. So pretty much I went to school in Port Pirie. Year 10, I did work experience at our local smelter in metallurgy, and then year 12, I based my research project around like a career in geoscience and like learning about the cyclical nature of it and interviewing geologists, just seeing like, you know, if it's something I really want to get into or not. Decided that it was, and straight after year 12, I moved to Adelaide. That was a tough year because, living with your parents for 18 years on a farm is quite a nice lifestyle. And I joined all these societies, everything I'd learned that was good to join and build up your networking, things like that.
Which university did you go to?
Uni of Adelaide.
Yep. And when you said you went to the local smelter, was that the Nyastar one?
Nyastar, yeah.
The Nyastar, sorry? Ah, I see.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Well, that was my first kind of exposure to industry in general. And I got to hold some silver, and I think that was like a light bulb moment. I was like, This is so cool, like just seeing it all right there.
Everyone, in fact, I know this because I only learned this a couple of weeks ago because I got a friend that got an internship at Nyastar. What is a smelter? Could you explain, like in two sentences, whatever? Yeah.
It just refines or separates the metal you're after from the bulk rock, it just kind of refines it more.
And anything?
Anything, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It'll have to be designed for the particular metals.
Yeah.
That
okay.
Planning on having, but yeah.
Ah, cool. Okay. And then so what happened out of uni? What did you study in uni?
My degree was Bachelor of Science Mineral Geoscience, and I did an exchange to Vancouver, which was really good. My sister was over there trying to be an actress.
What, sorry?
An actress.
Oh, an actress.
So, yeah. So I lived with her. That was really fun.
Oh, cool.
The courses that I was studying over there were like another world. It was like I was in a movie. My first lecture that I went to for mineralogy, like the lecturer came down, it was all dark, and he came down from the stairs like this big spiel about the earth and everything. I was like, this.
Whoa.
Yeah. But then actually before I went on exchange, just before I was about to go, they pulled a subject from the curriculum at UBC for whatever reason. And that meant that I had to add on an entire year to my degree because of it was only in semester 2 or whatever. And that was a big deal because I was like, is that worth it? But then in the end, I was like, let's just do it anyway. And then that meant when I got back to Adelaide, I was studying part-time. So I was able to apply for this job that came up at Oz Minerals as a student geologist. So I was working there 2 days a week. I started doing some geotechnical kind of work. And that lasted for about 4 months. Once I finished that, I actually went away to do an internship with BHP.
Ah, okay.
So that was in the Pilbara Desert. It was very hot.
Wow.
It was my first exposure to like drilling and logging actual RC chips or rocks. And I just learnt so much. I learned what I do like and don't like about the field time and the FIFO kind of lifestyle and everything. Then I came back and I managed to just reach out to a contact at Oz Minerals, and he set up a meeting with me and the new head of exploration at the time. So then I got a job back there 2 days a week while I was studying as well. So that really led to pretty much everything because I did an honours project with them after. So I did another year at Uni of Adelaide just in honours in geology. and that was on their Carapatina deposit. So it was a lot of geochemistry kind of focus.
Could you explain what that means?
The Carapatina deposit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a type of copper deposit in South Australia. But one of the things with it is it was relatively new. There hadn't been a lot of papers or research into it, and because it's basically so deep, there was a lot of humming and hawing with whether it's actually economically feasible to mine. So I just helped to characterise different relationships. If there was a relationship between the copper and certain minerals that you could kind of use as a vector when you're looking at elemental assay data from drilling and stuff. So that was really good. But I did honours in 2020, so it was pretty rough. Yeah, a lot of.
Was that in the middle of honours that everything kind of happened?
Up. So they were even telling us like you might have to just defer for the year and things, and I was like, no, I just want to get uni done with and like get into the industry and things. But it ended up working okay. Did it all from home. I actually moved back in with at Warnertown for a few months while it was all getting sorted. But I did just get an apartment in Rundle Street. So I was so excited, like Fringe was just starting. Yeah. I was paying all this money just to like live the city life, and I didn't live there for very long. Wow. So, yeah. But so then after honours, I had to, during honours to get my graduate position, I actually had to present to the CEO, the CPO and the CFO. Wow. So I was just like doing petrography.
BHP?
Oz Minerals.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I was just doing petrography like at uni, and I got this calendar invite with Andrew Cole and like the others, and I was just like, what? And basically some of the HR team, they reached out and like, this is what they want to hear from you and all this, and I was like, okay, sure. Wow. So I did that, and then locked in a grad position, and they. Basically, my first secondment was to Perth again, but this time I was doing a 2-week on, 1 week off roster, which is pretty tough. Yeah. And it was contracted as I was a field technician, which was like really physically demanding. You were lifting like 15 kilo buckets, and like 12 hours a day, direct sunlight, all the good stuff, lots of flies. So I did that. Promoted to a geo after like 2 swings because I was like studying the rocks on the side and asking everyone. And,
before we move on, what did you learn? What's probably the most important thing you learned from doing that field technician role?
Well, I think it was really important because once you bump up to a geo or manager or whatever, it was good to understand what it's like on the ground so that if you're the one planning those kind of drill programs, you know what your employees are going to be under and what they can handle and things like that. So I think there was an element of gaining credibility to it. Just learning more about myself. Like I did really love the geochemistry side of things. So I'd kind of naturally fall into doing projects in the office that was more kind of technical focused. But I did find that while I was on site, it was very isolating, pretty lonely.
Really?
Yeah, like... Because this camp that I was at, it was a kind of resource drill out, so there was only about 20 caravans set up. Closest town was like 3 hours away, kind of thing. And I was one of the only girls out there, besides our baker, and I loved her. But my best friend, who was working with me at the time, she was on the opposite swing, so we would only see each other like once a month. Oh, wow. Which is pretty tough. Yeah, so like you're out there, and my team of drillers, they're great, but there's only so much you can connect with it, the older guys and things like that. So
what's the average age of how old are generally when you say older guys?
Probably in their 40s.
Most people are like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
There are some younger fieldies for the drillers, probably between late 20s and 30s. Yeah, but pretty.
And how did you cope with all that pressure being alone?
Not like I ate a lot of baked goods.
Okay.
And then like just
good
cooling.
Strategy?
Yeah, calling mum every night kind of thing. And,
okay.
Just binge watching Netflix shows between like only 2 hours because by the time you finish the day, you're exhausted. You just sleep. Like you got to be up at 4 a.m. Like it's not amazing. Yeah, but don't get me wrong. Some people love it, especially because like when you have that week off, and I was in Perth at the time. Like, you have the week off and you can just relax, you can do whatever you want. So, it was good. Then after about 5 months of that project, I did some office time, which was really good. Like, I loved more the high-level planning of it all and the research and all of that kind of thing. Then I had another drill program to go out to, but this time it was near Prominent Hill, another copper mine. Did that same sort of experience, but I had fieldies to oversee, so I got some of that leadership and responsibility. But it was terrifying as well, having that responsibility at a pretty young age as well.
Did you find that people respected you?
For the most part, yeah. Because I was worried about that. But no, I was really lucky. I only ever had good experiences, and I got along well with the drill crews. So it wasn't so bad. And there was a lot of four-wheel driving, which was good, just blasting Taylor Swift and, having a good time out there. So, so that was done. And then the next year, I kind of naturally fell into more office work. And I was finding that I was getting a bit stressed before going out to the field. So it was kind of building up, me questioning, like, if I don't enjoy the field work, that's most of what an exploration geologist does, right? Well, you have to foresee those drill programs. So it was like this whole year of kind of pondering, like, for the first time since I was 13, what it would be like if I wasn't a geologist, and kind of detaching that from my identity was like a process in itself, right? And so it was a lot. And then I did a few more field trips, and then it got to the point where I was like, no, I probably shouldn't keep pushing myself, because I was getting pretty anxious. So I had the chat with my boss, and he was really supportive. So basically, I just had some time. I actually ran away to Europe for 2 months to go find myself.
So good. Wow.
It was good. And then came back, but while I was over in Europe, that was when BHP announced that they were trying to acquire Oz Minerals. So I was like, I should probably get back, because it's very uncertain. And so I got back, and the problem was still there. I was reaching out to pretty much everyone in my network, but all people were saying to me was, you need to do that 5 to 10 years of field time to get up the ranks, to get your credibility, to get into sort of the more technical decision-making roles, right? So I had that, and people were telling me that from first year of uni. So it was always like a narrative I'd stuck to, and I was like, okay, that's where I probably pushed myself a bit longer than I should have.
Is the pathway shorter if you did engineering to get into those technical decision-making roles?
I think, like, people were saying, try a PhD, MBA, like side courses like that, but I think with geology, because it's so specialised, the saying was like, the geologist who sees the most rocks wins, like, because you have that and people want that. So
it's more like a feeling of just the background knowledge. So it's not really a data science that
No, it's physical, and you gotta And also there was the whole problem of like getting mine geology experience, because if you have that, then it makes you a better exploration geo. Because I was always shooting for like high manager or C-suite positions. Like, I was very ambitious, still am. But so I was kind of putting a lot of pressure on myself to do like X, Y, Z, by this time, that time. So while BHP were taking over, I was literally like getting the organisation chart and like just picking anyone, organising a meeting with them and just being like, okay, what do you do? Like, do you think a geologist could do this? Or like, where are the gaps at? So I was even considering studying psychology or like business psychology at one point, because mum and dad are life coaches and I have like a natural kind of interest in that. So I was doing mind maps, I was doing some soul searching. But eventually one of those discussions was with the chief scientist at Fleet. I'd met him. Fleet did a survey for Oz Minerals a couple of years back. And he was awesome. He set me up I ended up doing 5 interviews with Fleet. Originally it was for like a geophysics heavy position, but because that's not my natural strength, I was telling them like I want to be more people facing and that whole side, and they really listened and basically was like, oh, maybe Brooke could be in this team, which is the client management team, which I'm a part of now. So that's how I got there. It was a long wind of just trying to figure out where a geologist could fit in, and I would never have thought it was going to be in a space tech company.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wow. That's a lot.
A lot of people don't know what fleet is, so you probably need to explain
Yeah.
that part a
That's
little
very
bit. So
true.
like it's a jump because
Yeah.
a lot of people even, but who are actually at Lot 14 don't still know what fleet do and how the space
I'm still learning, to be honest.
correlates to mining and all that.
Yeah.
So you probably
Yep. So Fleet are a space tech startup. So I only joined in November, but basically they have Exosphere, which is this mineral exploration kind of service, and then they have a bunch of projects with defence as well. But we have 6 satellites in space right now, and basically the whole mission is to develop Exosphere on Earth, and then that can be applied to the Moon and Mars and things like that. They're deploying the first Aussie seismic tech to the Moon in 2026. So it's a product called Spider, and it's basically going to image down to a kilometre searching for water ice deposits on the Moon.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's really fun. Yeah, but Exosphere, so it's a technique called ambient noise tomography. So it's basically, they're called geodes, they're little seismic sensors, and we deploy them in grids, hundreds at a time, whatever the client wants, and the clients are mineral exploration or mining companies. We deploy them, let them listen to the Earth's natural noise, I guess, so that could be like ocean waves or traffic, whatever it is. And in real time, that data is sent to the satellites that we have, and then that basically transmits it to the cloud. That creates these like 2D phase maps, and then the geophysicists do all of their cool math stuff and make a 3D model, which then gets given to me and my team. So what we can do with those models is you can map like major structures or faults below the surface up to like 2.5 kilometres deep. And depending on I usually need to do a lot of research about the actual area at the time and figure out what kind of rock types or lithologies are there and how it fits in with the broader regional geology. So what kind of magmatic or volcanic events has happened billions of years back, right? And then kind of at the scale that it's at, put together a story of where copper or another critical mineral could be located, depending on all of those things. But it's not a silver bullet method by any means. It has its benefits and limitations compared to gravity or magnetic data, all of those things. But the key with it is you can overlay everything, your drilling data, everything to make this big picture. And the more data you have, the better decisions you can make, or you can help the companies make about where they're going to drill to test if there's metal there.
Yeah, wow. Amazing. And
before we jump in, I'm a technical person. I'm still sort of trying to get my head around the technology. Maybe we need to try to simplify the whole concept.
That's true.
For the audience. So my understanding is you put a device in the middle of nowhere, which you're looking for exploration, and that device helps you to get the information out of the ground.
Yeah, so because you can't see under the surface, right?
Correct. And then that information, then it's your job to turn that information into a 3D model.
The 3D model is made.
Yep.
It's my job to interpret and make it usable
Okay.
for people to get information from it.
Get information, which then helps you to optimize the understanding of how much of each mineral exists in that area.
Yeah, or if there could be accumulations of a specific mineral type.
Correct.
So there's a bunch of different, for every metal, so metal is locked up in minerals, and for every kind of metal there are different deposit types that each require their own kind of exploration methodology to search for them. So it's a matter of understanding, firstly, what metal it could be prospective for that area, and then tailoring kind of the data you need for that and your interpretation based on that, which is what the companies usually tell us.
Wow, okay.
So where the space sits in all that?
Yeah, well, I think the satellites are a big part, but Fleet have a big warehouse out at Beverley, and they build a lot of things which I'm not really on top of, to be honest. I've been in my own geology rock world, but yeah, there's everyone, electronic engineers, mechanical. They're building mostly improving the geode tech, developing spider, creating the satellites. There's a 3D printer that they're printing parts for the satellites, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Because my understanding was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that all that information to make this exploration faster, all that information is sent to the using satellites to get all the information live from the site to off-site, so you don't need to be present on the site for the exploration time. Is it?
Yeah, the main value of having the satellites is to have that real-time quality control. So when we're deploying, we have techs looking at, if a geode or two goes offline, if it's actually got a clear line of sight with the satellite, or if the data's not right in any way, then you can actually maneuver or adjust it to get really good quality data, like right there, instead of, waiting for after a week for collecting data and then having to redo it. So there's that aspect, and then it's just, speeding up the whole data processing as well.
Yeah, awesome. Wow.
I'd like to go back a bit into uni a little bit. Was it, so obviously, what are the different pathways you can use to get into geology? Because it was the one that you went through, the main one that most people go through.
Yeah, pretty much. And when I was looking, I'm not sure now actually, but Uni of Adelaide was the only uni that offered a geology degree. And the one I did, mineral geoscience, was really good because it was aimed at the minerals or resources industry. So it had a few subjects that were specific about the economics.
And was it a competitive degree, as in?
No, it wasn't so bad. I don't remember the ATAR being too high or anything, but we need more geologists.
Yeah, so finding work after the degree was...
It's easy, yeah.
Really?
But most of the work is in Western Australia.
Oh, really?
So okay. I was pretty lucky to find work in SA. But yeah, because the industry goes through downturns, it depends on what year you graduate. So I know there was a period there where geologists were graduating, there wasn't a lot of work, so then often people would do PhDs or something like that.
Sure.
But yeah, certainly in the immediate past, it's everyone needs geologists. There's been ample jobs. We're in demand now.
Could you explain how the industry goes through downturns? Is that because they don't find any minerals, or because there's no money, or?
Yeah, it's macro scale economics, I think, but particularly with exploration geologists, exploration is usually the first department to go if a mining company has to cut its profits or anything. So it's basically you need money to explore, but the success rate of drilling in mineral exploration is really low.
Oh, really?
So there's a lot to do with that as well, which I can go into, but so I think that's the key thing. Mine geology, I think that's much more stable. I've never been one to want to do mine geology because it just seems very same sort of stuff every day. It's fast paced. But yeah, it's not a lot of thinking about the bigger picture.
Sure. Could you explain what the difference is between mine and exploration?
Yeah. So exploration is basically you're working up an area to figure out what metals might be prospective there, and then designing drill programs eventually to go and test it. You'll do a bunch of geophysical surveys before that. You can plan all of that. Mine geology is you're based at a mine site, and you're basically controlling, you're going underground or in the open pit or whatever, and you're mapping where the ore is and where the waste rock is, or the lower grade rocks, to then tell the engineers where's optimal to dig, or determining like the ore pile. Based on how high grade it is, it'll just direct all of the engineers, all the diggers, it'll direct how it's being mined. So there's a lot of 3D modelling, but I haven't actually spent time doing it, so I probably can't give you a good explanation there.
I see. So when you think about a mine site and that industry in general, well, I'm asking all these questions because I'm in the defense industry, so it's completely different. Yeah. Even just like the diversity of roles is so different here, because obviously we don't have any miners in defense. Any geologists in defense.
Well, the challenge there, we're going to discuss later. But
but I'm just wondering, like, if you look at the timeline of like finding something in the earth and digging it up and then selling it, processing it and selling it. So you're saying what phase of that timeline is geologists most needed? I'm guessing it's in the initial.
Yeah, so exploration's right at the start of that. And then, but I think the average time, if we find or drill something and there's like a lot of copper there, for example, the time it takes to actually drill it out to a point where it can be mined is like 10 years or so. So, it's a problem.
So you're saying just drilling, as in getting rid of the earth around it takes 10 years?
Or from the time that you estimate there is a rock or there are minerals there?
From when you first hit the treasure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow,
because
10
then,
years.
and like drilling is so expensive, and but it's our only surefire way to be confident, right, about the geometry of the ore, because there's all different shapes and sizes that copper can be confined in, right? So it's a matter of like drilling that out and then reporting it, and then if the company thinks that it's feasible for them or it's within their budget to develop, or if it's too low grade, they'll just say, no, just kidding. Or a company like BHP will just be able to buy it because they have the money to be able to develop it. But yeah, that whole drilling process to get it to a mine, and then even when you're mining, like actively taking the rock out and processing everything, you're still drilling all the time to make sure you're confident on that exact ore drive of like where the ore is or highest.
Could you explain exactly what drilling is? I know you said drilling a lot, but...
Basically, there are two main types of drill rigs. So they're like massive trucks. And diamond drilling is basically, it has like a diamond kind of drill bit, and it basically churns away and it cuts a cylinder of core out. And it's the best but most expensive. It'll give geologists the most amount of information, particularly structural information, because it's like a whole piece of core. Whereas RC drilling, less expensive, it can only go to shallower depths, but it's like punching the rock with air. And so it's crushing it all up, and you get like these chips. It can range, like they can be like that size or like really, really small. So you don't get as much information from them, but it's still enough for a geologist to visually like log the core and what minerals and stuff.
How deep below the surface can you start drilling?
So
it's like, can you just drive up on a road and just go to the side and start drilling?
My question was like, let's say there is no information about the site.
Yeah.
Okay, and these, you're in the middle of nowhere. How do you first identify, because it's an expensive process?
Exosphere. So you do all kind of geochemical methods. You want to do as much of that stuff before you drill. So you want to, like, by the time you're drilling, you have a really good idea of what your thinking is going to be there. So like that might involve flying gravimeters or magnetometers, and it's basically gives you like heat maps or colour maps, which you can interpret. Like, for example, an IOCG or like a type of copper deposit. In a map, which you overlay like a grav and mag map, you'll want to look for a bullseye, essentially. And the magnetic can have another bullseye, but it can be like kind of overlapping. You want to look for like that pattern generally. And then like once you have that, you might do some soil sampling and sending it to lab. That gives you like elemental analysis of like if there's anything anomalous that you're seeing, that could indicate you want to search there. Or EM surveying, so that's, you can go on the ground, like pretty much whatever, like airborne or on the ground, and that's looking at conductive, so that'll pick up like sulfides or sulfide minerals, which is what hosts the copper and things like that.
I see.
So you're building up a story, as much data as you can get, and then you drill.
I think the biggest, I mean, thinking about the audience, the big, when you, out of everything you said, the most relatable ones are probably the magnetic and the gravity side of things. So could you explain maybe why would that be relevant? What the gravity map and the magnetic map looks like?
Yep. So the copper deposit I was talking about, it's hosted in this mineral called hematite, which is like an iron oxide, and that's a really heavy or dense mineral. And you basically, what the geophysics is trying to do is image that against the contrasting like background rock, which we don't really care about. So the gravity, you want to look for like a red blob, right? So that's something that's really high because gravity is kind of imaging dense or heavy things. Yeah, so it's basically all related to mineralogy in the end. So, and it will have, so magnetite, another iron oxide, that'll be picked up in the magnetic image really well because it's one of the only magnetic minerals.
Wow, right. Okay.
So, it depends on, that's why you got to know the deposit style, what minerals might be in there, and then you can determine which kind of geophysical method you want to use to best.
And I'm just curious here. So obviously we know what the average gravity value is. How sensitive are these gravity maps you're talking about? Like, what's the range? Is it plus or minus? Like, what decimal point does it go to?
I don't think I could tell you the range.
Is it a secret?
Yeah. But with it, like, because you get the 2D maps, but then your in-house geophysicist, what he'll do is do inversions. So I don't know the details of it, but it gives you a rough idea of how big the body would have to be and at what depth to show that response in the 2D image.
Yeah.
So then you can kind of, if you have that as well. Yeah. And then right at the end, if you're going to drill, you want to hit that body like perpendicular.
I see.
And so you can start to maneuver how you're going to drill.
So back to our original question with the drilling. So is there any kind of surface preparation you have to do before you start drilling? Or
Yeah.
because I'm thinking, in my head, I'm thinking it's dirt, right? Like, where does the rock come in?
Yes.
Like, how deep below?
So Australia's issue is that we have so much of that top cover. Yeah. So like all of the loose sediments and everything, and it's really, really deep and weathered. And
why is that?
Because it's old. It's a very old piece of crust.
And untouched.
Yeah. So that's why we need to develop tech to be able to explore deeper, because all of the superficial deposits, like the old timers when they're walking out there, they see these bright blue and green rocks and they know it's a copper deposit, right? But all of that's already been scavenged and developed and mined and things like that. But now, we need to see much deeper so we can find deposits that are there, because they're not easily seen anymore.
Yeah. So I want to understand the frustration as well here, because I'm thinking, how long does it take for a site to be made ready so that you can start getting drilled?
A big part of an exploration geology job is like planning those programs. Yeah. So what I used to do was you have to go out to the site first, figure out the pastoralist, because usually it's out in the middle of nowhere. So you liaise with the pastoralist, you make sure they're okay. There's all of these documents and reports you have to do and send them out. The native title owners, getting their approval. Sometimes we would take them out. They would survey the land to make sure there's nothing of significance there first. Then you'd get...
cooperate well?
Yeah. Oh, I had one of the best career highlights was a heritage survey we did. Yeah, it was beautiful. I learnt a lot. But yeah, so yeah, there's like all these different stakeholders you have to get approval for. And the Department for Energy and Mining, so you do environmental reports, you're making sure there's no like endangered species of flower that you're gonna, So it's a very long process before you can even do a geophysical survey or a drill hole.
And so you do these surveys. Let's say flower is an example, right? Yeah. So you get this far and then you find a species of flower. Is it no, we have to find another place? Like, does it shut down straight away, or is there?
It depends.
How bad is this risk?
Political.
It all comes into it. But like a drill pad, like I think I can't remember how many, like 20 meters or 100 meters, around that range. So you just want to clear that section. So if there's a flower that theoretically you could just move the pad.
Okay.
Yes. But then if you have your target that you've modelled, there's no point moving the pad if it's not going to intersect at the right depth. So you've got to take all of that into account. Yeah.
Okay, I see. And so this drill pad is where you are placing the driller. Yes. And so how far is that loose sediment usually? Or does it depend a lot?
Completely variable. But like maybe around, let's say, 200 meters is good. Yeah. But it can range up to like 800 meters.
Wow, right. And so it's just that pad that you drill down, or don't you have to go around?
So there's lots of so it's called like regolith.
Yeah.
So you have like maybe 10 meters of your topsoil, or how much, and then you have like a sandstone unit, like a shale or a mudstone, and then it might go into a basement rock, so like a really hard granite or something like that. So the depth to basement that I'm talking about is to hit that granite layer.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. So so how long does it take to get to that? Because even to this point, you haven't actually drilled anything yet. So this would all be a complete waste of time.
Because the drilling, I think, is just to build the confidence.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So that's what I'm saying.
But then don't forget, you could spend like a year planning a drill program of like 12 holes or so.
Yeah.
And then not hit anything fun. Yeah.
So I see where all this money waste goes.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so once you've got all of your approvals, then you go out and you peg the ground. So you peg all your boundaries, you peg the hole. Then you get all of the drill people to come up, all of the machines. Sometimes you have to get water trucks to make sure there's all of the safety precautions. And then you line the rig up, the azimuth you want and everything, and then they start drilling. So RC holes you can drill depending on how deep they are. They usually only go up to about 300 or so meters, but 1 to 3 days.
Yeah, I see.
But diamond holes, they're a lot slower. So
sorry, it takes 3 days to drill?
To drill a single hole, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. How deep does it go?
Up to 350-ish.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's one,
but yeah. So an RC as well is the chip. So they put all these piles on the ground in like say 2 meter intervals. Yeah. And then I'll be out there in my 4-wheel drive, and you got to sieve the chips. You got to log it on your computer.
Wow.
In direct sunlight with flies.
But then the diamond one is one like core that's intact.
Yes.
Or it can break as well.
It can break.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's good because then it tells you where like zones of weakness are, and their structures usually will fall.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And so you drill all these holes, and how long after the drilling do you find out if it's been a waste of time?
Well, like if with RC drilling, you'd be out there in real time logging.
Yeah. So
you'll be seeing what's coming out. But diamond, like usually if it's at a remote site, the geos would go out there towards the end of the day, pick up the trays. So each tray has about 5 meters of core, and then you take that back to like a shed where you have like these roller tray things that you put them all on. Yeah. And then a tech will go and mark like all of the things first, and then the geologist comes in and does all their logging and everything. And then you do all your sampling.
Yeah.
Send it to the lab.
And is there a lot of emotion? Yeah, I would think so.
What do you mean?
Months of work and then
it's suddenly like, lost.
It's pretty, it's heartbreaking. But you also have a lot of fun with it. Like I was having bets with Oz Minerals, like our drill program. It's like, target number 5, this is going to be it. Like, you always get so worked up at like.
And it's one in how many drills?
I don't know. No, don't quote me on that. But I think it's like a 99% failure rate.
No.
Or like,
What?
but contrast that with oil and gas industry. I can't remember the number, but it's just the success is a lot more because their methodology is completely different.
So you're saying the oil and gas is even harder to find?
No,
it's much better.
Much easier.
Yeah, I mean that seems reasonable.
Yes.
Wow.
But yeah, that's why like mineral exploration, we need so many more geologists, develop all of this new cool tech.
Yeah.
Exosphere is one that I'm really liking, and then I'm seeing the promise and everything. But yeah, it's important because if you think about the green energy transition and how much copper and nickel, all of that we're going to need to build solar panels, everything.
Yeah.
It's so much with global population growth. And if we're not finding anything now, say if we find something today, it's going to take 10 years before we can actually get the material. So it's like there's a lot of rush. It's kind of stressful. It's very stressful. But yeah.
Okay.
And no one really talk about it. Everyone is like, we need to go green. We need to build all this. It's like...
and there's a lot of stigma, like how bad mining is. But yeah, that's what I've done a few talks at uni and stuff. But just trying to just explain how much care majority of mining and exploration companies take. You hear about one or two ones in the news, but there's thousands of people doing this, and most of the time they're doing a great job. There's all this research going into mine rehab now. So you can look at photos, like most of the time it just is returned to its normal state. It's all flat, you replant everything, it's fine. Before you drill a hole, remember that whole process, the environmental reporting that you have to go through to make sure you're on top of everything is like so strict and regulated. Okay. So I think that's what a lot of people don't know is there are standards and everyone does care and doing their best.
So I've got a hypothetical situation for you. So obviously you're saying when you were talking about the drill pad, is that what you called it? Yeah. So you to drill this coal because you think there's something there, right? And like you said, it's an endangered species, but I only have to worry about this small area.
Yeah.
Let's say you do find something.
Yeah.
But then what happens to the surrounding? Because now you're going to have to...
Yeah, so that's what you would look at right at the start.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, like, zooming out, every company will have their own search spaces in the world or different countries, whatever, and, like, no-go zones.
Yeah.
If there's a national park, you're not even going to bother looking at something like that. So that's all the quality kind of assurance you do.
And how deep down do you generally find a hole that's worth digging out? And
a variable again, but usually like within after 200-300 meters, usually. But IOCGs, they are deeper because they're pipes.
Yeah, okay.
So it can go down to like 1.5 kilometers.
Yeah, wow. And that, because that led to my next question, which was, let's say you find something 300 meters down, how much surface area does it take to like get to that point with enough, all the gear and everything to actually extract that?
Well, yeah, so that'll depend on the shape and everything.
So everything just depends.
It depends on...
If it was easy, everyone would do it.
I can't give you like a broad brush.
Yeah.
It's more than engineering, it's an art, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's the thing, I think it's... that's where mine design and everything comes in, because like for Carapatina, because it is so deep, they're doing sub-level caving as like a starting thing, but then they're doing a block cave at the bottom. And then obviously there's open pit for like more shallow kind of flat-lying deposits. So depending on the mineralogy, again, it's going to determine how you pull it out or how you build everything.
Yeah, wow, okay.
Damn, this is really interesting. So I'm just trying to build a timeline of how this works. And then you mentioned earlier at the start that so once you drill and you do find something, it takes 10 years to actually...
Roughly.
To do what?
To make it a mining lease. So like actually start pulling the ore out the ground, sending it to the smelter.
So because when I picture a mine, I see all these these levels of roads that kind of go down.
That's an open pit, yeah.
So that's the open pit?
Yeah.
So are you saying it takes 10 years to create that, or even to just start doing that in the first place?
That's a good question. I think
That's a lot of earth you have to move, right? So,
yes. Yeah. Depends on the mine design again, but I think. Okay, yeah. So it's to actually just start. So obviously you'll need to like set up a camp first, and like if it's an underground mine, build that portal or like dig the first kind of entry point, and all the infrastructure, setting up all of that. But then Carrapateena was started mining at the top level.
Yeah.
And then it's progressively scooping out as you go deeper. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Wow. Okay. I'm just thinking about how many like potential no's you have to get through.
Oh yeah.
Until you finally have, because even if you find something, none of the companies might not want it, right? Like you said, if it's not good quality enough,
yes,
right?
If it's not high enough grade.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you measure the quantity of? I mean, yes, you hit the treasure, and that's fine. But how do you measure the quantity of that? Because how much you can get out of that?
Drilling.
Yes.
But so like, say if you have like just a grid of drill holes, and the deposit is shaped like a flat lying cylinder, let's say. We have like a lot of 3D visualization software, but you would log all of that information from the holes, and see in that program, and then you can link up kind of boundaries between where you're seeing that same rock type in that hole versus this hole, how much it's shifted. You can and then you use the algorithms to interpolate like a shape, call it. So then the more holes you have, the better you can refine that shape and pull it closer or whatever, and then it's just a basic volume calculation. Is like in that ore shell. And
how accurate is that? Like how much a mining company carries risk based on the information?
Yeah, so that's the problem, is because they want it to be very, very, very accurate. Yeah. So you need a lot of holes, and it's very expensive and not great for the environment.
Yeah. Okay. This is my next question, because I always hear that mining is bad for the environment, but I never was able to logically think why. Like, you're digging a hole. Like, why is digging a hole bad for the environment?
It's more so like just the fuel.
Oh,
for like all of the drill trucks to run all the like that side of things.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're using waves to actually measure or get
so the aim
waves,
of exosphere, the geophysical methods, is to reduce the number of holes to get the same amount of confidence. So it's
less impact on the environment.
Yeah. And the geodes themselves, like generally the pastoralists and the stakeholders who have the land, they're more than happy for it, because you literally just plop it 20 centimeters in the soil and it doesn't do anything like physically, right? And you can deploy them in like a car and you can walk, so it's less like kind of ground disturbance that way. Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting.
I have a question. Like, have you ever thought about finding gold or diamond where you were exploring things around out of random? Have you ever had a dream of that?
Yes. So that's the goal. But my favourite mineral is called azurite, and it's like a bright blue copper mineral. And I did find some in South Australia. It was like on this field camp, and I was stoked. So I think even like
did you get to keep it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's like more exciting
than
finding gold or something.
Okay.
Because it's just pretty and blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's all the
sorry, and this actually goes to our next question. So obviously you talk about the gravity and the heat, magnetic, all this for finding metals. What about for like diamond mining or like something that doesn't have any kind of...
Yeah, so every commodity, right, requires training. So my only experience is in copper and nickel.
Yes, okay.
But I'm starting to learn about like lithium, because pretty much there's a whole wealth of knowledge and research for each kind of commodity style. So I don't think I could... I know diamonds are hosted in kimberlite pipes and it's in some sort of geological setting. But like, that's the thing, is you would have to spend a year or two, like,
wow, right.
Trying to sort out what you're actually looking for in the data for that deposit type.
So you said copper, nickel, lithium. Are you like building a battery?
Copper,
I see what you're predicting for the future.
Yeah, but it has worked out useful, because they're the most in-demand minerals, I would say. Yeah.
Exactly. That's very interesting.
What do you think about, because I mean, as a non-geologist, not in the mining industry, absolute stranger to this, I always hear news articles about like meteor mining, how much minerals are available in just like a meteor, and sending a spaceship out to land and just mine there and then bring the minerals back. Do you think is that actually possible, or just a pipe dream?
Is it realistic?
I don't know enough about that, but I would say we really need to focus our efforts on Earth first.
You think there's a lot left in the Earth?
Yeah, but it's probably just really deep. So that's the issue. But that's an awesome goal to have. But in terms of like how realistic, I'm just not on top of the tech to do that.
Makes sense.
So yeah.
So you mentioned that there's more in the Earth and it's really deep. What's stopping us from getting it? It's just that we don't know what's there. We can't scan deep enough.
We can't scan deep enough. Yeah, right now. And I don't know, because right now, like even to build a mine, like say there's an ore body like 2 kilometers down, the economics just don't work out for you to feasibly extract that ore that deep.
Yeah.
With all the infrastructure and everything. We just haven't developed that tech yet.
Is Australia the leading country for mining technology?
Don't know.
No, but it's just this is where you've worked. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like comparing here, because you studied in Canada, so compare just here to Canada. So
I didn't work in Canada.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, and then like, yeah, just literally we just can't see that deep yet with our methods that we're using right now.
Wow. And is it getting better?
Yeah. Well, exosphere's 2.5 Ks, and magnetotellurics is another thing that geologists are getting more comfortable with, and that.
What is that? Could you explain?
What is that?
it's a device.
It's a just like a method, but it goes crustal scale to like
Crustals.
just so deep, and it
How
basically
deep are we talking
images
about?
like the feeder zones of deposits. So it's like at a huge scale. I can't give you numbers. I'll look
1
it up,
kilometers, 2 kilometers.
like
10 kilometers.
hundreds.
Oh
Wow.
But don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's fine.
How thick
We're
is the
meant
crust?
not to talk about details of the technical. But no,
Do you know how thick the crust is?
I used to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's a first year
thousands.
geology.
Yeah, that was my first year subject. Yeah. So basically, like that's a method that's big scale. And the deposits are like little ants at the top, and it's imaging like this big
Wow.
like convection fluid pathway that might have caused certain magnetism
Yeah.
to end up producing those deposits.
So we're really like just scratching the surface of how much
yeah.
is in the Earth. It's just that we can't go deep enough.
We just can't go deep enough. Yes.
So.
we went back through the university, but I would just want to go way back. Okay, because you said you were interested in rocks. Why rocks?
I don't know. I can't give you a good answer. I just really loved. I don't know. I just loved like collecting them, and they were all different, like the crystals. I did have a book because Mum was really into the crystal healing side of things, and I think I was like 11 when I first was told about like how they're good for your health and things like that. So I think I had that bit of an exposure from Mum, and then Dad was always interested in geology. Like he would watch those documentaries and point out like sedimentary layers to me, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. So it was just kind of the only thing I ever really considered, because I did have a natural passion, and I used to get books about space and earth science pretty young. So I just had a natural.
And is everyone the same story? As in people that you've talked to, your geologist network?
No, because most of them, they said, like 9 times out of 10, they would start studying like a batch of science generic. Yeah. But then they would take first year geology and be like, whoa, amazing. And then they switch into a geo degree. So like that's most of the time that I've heard how people have got into it. Yeah. Because high school, they didn't teach any geology in my high school. So the only reason I knew about it was Dad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about mining and the industry and kind of the what of what you do. So maybe we can just start talking a little bit about. I mean, we talked a little bit about the why you did geology in the first place, but if you go back to what it's actually like to be a geologist day to day, what the lifestyle's like, maybe you could touch a bit more on that. Specifically speaking to if you think there's someone in the audience that's thinking maybe second year of uni, this is what I've come down, what can I expect?
Yeah. So the original reason was I love rock track, but that definitely evolved once I started being a geologist, because I felt like it's a job where you can actually make a difference in terms of like not just the green energy transition, but we need these metals to support our modern way of life and tech in every different industry. We need it for our fridges. And I think at Fleet, I feel that especially because we're developing a method that can be fed into like multiple exploration companies, and it can speed up discovery of those critical minerals that we need. In terms of, besides the satisfaction of, the salary is obviously really, really attractive. I think as a graduate out of uni, typically between 80 to 100 grand, and that just goes up pretty quickly as you get promoted and things like that.
You mentioned that you were in a field technician role before you went to more of a managerial office space role. Did you have to take a pay cut at all? Because I know that field work is oftentimes paid well.
No, Fleet did match my salary, so that was I was very lucky. But in terms of lifestyle, or maybe I'll start with pathways. So I used to think that doing a geology degree, you either did exploration or mining, but there is like so much more. Science communication is one, because I feel like geology students are trained to like synthesize a bunch of different data and information and like condense it and make it communicable to the clients or whoever you're talking to. So there's that. Academia, researching new methods to explore or different ways to mine, better ways to mine. And there's also government. So I was looking at even the Office for Hydrogen Power, that's upcoming in South Australia particularly. Department for Energy and Mining, their job is a lot of, or the Geological Survey, in every state. They build bigger data sets that is publicly available. So there's really good work there to be done.
Oh, right.
Yeah, lots of research heavy, field programs, all of that, but it's more like sampling and more academic focused. Lifestyle, people, as I was saying, like people really either love FIFO or they hate it, the fly in, fly out. Depending on your rosters, and companies are getting better now with work-life balances. They're adjusting it. Like there's even 7 days on, 7 days off rosters, which are really cool. You take like a little bit of a pay cut, I think, but I think a lot of people.
As opposed to.
Usually it's like 8 and 6 is the typical roster. But yeah, it's getting a lot better in that regard, and people do have that downtime and they go traveling. Like they'll take geology jobs in like any part of the world and do like a bigger roster, so they'll get like 2 or 3 weeks off and then they can spend that traveling Europe or whatever. So it's really flexible in that way. If you want to live your life like that, just explore the whole world kind of thing. Otherwise, there is a lot of like office time. So if you want that Monday to Friday kind of role, which is what I'm doing, and even that, I'm allowed to work from home 2 days a week, and I'll often go to cafes because that's where I'm most productive. But yeah, lots of companies are more and more supportive of that flexibility in how you want to set up your work life.
Yeah, awesome. I'm going to ask a question which you might turn down straight away. That's a waste of time, but I will ask you anyway. Paleontology. Is that at all related to, even at what point do you split? Because I'm thinking you both dig and you're both looking for things in the ground.
Yeah.
Even at uni, from a science point of view, because you did a Bachelor of Science, right? Did you have any is that a completely separate degree or?
I did one paleontology subject, I think. I think it is a separate degree now.
I see.
I think, yeah. So that's more like life forms and organisms and lots more biology.
Yeah.
But in the geological record, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know the geological timescale?
Yes.
And how
Sorry,
that's...
no.
Please
explain.
Yeah, you did it. But it's basically like it's broken up into eras, there are eons, all these different periods of time. And how they're actually divided or divvied up is through kind of paleontology. So you might see an outcrop of rock in the desert. And I think this is, I can't remember where in South Australia, but one of the points is where you see the shift from multicellular organisms to single cell to multicellular, because there's like these burrows in the rocks and this like rock record that you can see, like you can kind of correlate everywhere. But yeah, the point where they started burrowing, they become more smart to like escape predators and stuff. So paleontologists, they will study all of these shells or fossils or whatever in different layers of rock, and then that can tell you like what time, because you can also date the minerals in that rock and assign, So it was built up like that.
Wow,
so paleontology is super cool, but I didn't lean towards that.
Yeah. Was that ever an option?
Yeah.
Did you think about it?
I did think about it, yeah. But
you have to be in Egypt for that. For a movie story.
Yeah.
Do you have you ever found fossils while you're digging it up?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Is that like an exciting thing? Or?
They're kind of exciting. It's not as exciting for me as like cool minerals.
Sorry.
But yeah, like no crazy cool fossils, like mostly like the little turbidites or little sea creatures and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because parts of Central Australia used to be underwater, right? So a lot of
No, I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
Yeah, completely underwater.
How far back?
Oh, I can't tell you that. But
100,000?
I think
Like 100,000 years or
millions. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And also snowball Earths. Did you know about snowball Earths?
No, what's
So
that?
like,
Sorry, snowball Earth?
yeah, so like points in Earth's history, like could be millions of years, billions of years, where the Earth was completely covered in ice.
Wow,
Yeah.
really?
Okay.
No, I didn't know that.
Completely. And you can see lots of evidence for that.
Wow.
It's cool. Glaciers are awesome. Like at Hallett Cove.
Okay.
Have you done that trail board walk?
No.
You can see like striations where massive glaciers were carving out the rock at that time. So like, you can pinpoint all these little things and like
so cool.
this,
It's
the
getting
sugar
fascinating now.
Yeah.
the sugar loaf is so cool. It's
Okay.
like it's basically a capped carbonate, so it represents when I think it's marine transgression. So where Earth started flooding more and depositing all of this like calcium carbonate on the land and stuff. So you can kind of pinpoint exactly what was happening at different times when you date them and you correlate everything. Yeah, it's really cool.
That's amazing.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So going back to geology, and so obviously we've talked about kind of what you got up to here, why you do it. What about the future? What are you keen to kind of develop and work towards?
Yeah, because like what I've learned in the past few years is that like you can't necessarily plan every detail of your career, because things will just happen and things that you would have never expect to happen. But all I think I'm gunning for now is ultimately I just want to lead a team of geologists working on something super cool, whatever it may be. The space industry I'm loving, and what I'm doing now at Fleet, I would say it's probably my dream job, because it's like that mix of getting to talk to people heaps, but also using my technical geology skills. So working my way up with Fleet in whatever way that looks like, I'm not really sure, because I didn't think that I would go from exploration to a geological client specialist. So I'm not sure how the path looks anymore.
Do you think you'd want to go back to uni at all? Or?
No, I wouldn't say never. Like,
Because it sounds like you're very much into the technical side as well, and the research. So
I do, maybe like
And
a
it
master's.
looks like that you do have an engineering mindset that's somewhere in the back of your head. It's because you know the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can explain the process, and how much of that is correlate to So like, what do you think about an engineering mindset can help you with your job, with your work?
Would you recommend an engineering degree? Because I'm not sure, because I was going to do a master's at one point just to get a better handle or like become a specialist in a particular type of deposit, because I loved studying that. And then same with the business psychology, or kind of incorporating that in my job in some way, because I do want to kind of maximize how much I'm helping people in my job. So I feel like there could be a crossover there, but I'm not sure at this point.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Day by day.
Yeah.
Or year
See
by
what
year.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And also CEO, but
Yes.
yeah.
That would. I mean, how much do you see yourself? Fleet play, does not watch this part of it, but how much of it is like the future do you think that you run? Because you said you like to run a team of geologists. How do you think with all this technology evolving and the industry is going to be evolving, how much do you see yourself as running your own company and running that that part of it, because you do have that much of a background? And
I would love to start my own business one day, but I'm just too early in my career to even kind of pinpoint what I would specialize in. So I think, for the time being, just get as much experience as possible in like a bunch of different areas, I guess. And
It's good that you have you're not rushing it.
yeah.
I feel like a lot of people rush.
No, well, I feel like school kind of sets you up for that, mindset. But I've done a lot of meditating and trying to calm myself down, because I was very anxious and had like a definite path, right?
Yeah.
So I think, learning to just step back and trusting that things are going to work out has been really helpful for me.
Yeah, something I always say is, because whenever I get asked about goals and what I see myself in like a 5 to 10 year plan.
I hate that question.
Me too.
Yeah.
My answer is always that I don't. Instead, I just try to make myself, put myself in a place where I'm available to accept opportunity as they come.
Yeah.
Like you said, you don't know when it's going to come.
Yeah, that's it.
But if you, health-wise, financial-wise, like in all aspects of your life, if you're ready to say yes and nothing's holding you back, you just wait.
And keeping an open mind.
Yeah,
because that's how, talking to the chief scientist at Fleet, because at that point, I was not thinking I was going to be able to work for Fleet. So I was like, why would they want a geologist? But then the more I'm learning, the space industry couldn't take anyone, whatever kind of background you have. But it's all about how well you can learn on the job, how keen you are, how curious you are.
Why is space so different? What's the difference between a space geologist and a normal geologist? Or any job?
Or what will be the difference in the future?
It's obviously that you go to space and you're in space, but the fundamentals, are they very much that different? Or
I'm not sure what you're meaning, but
like you said, why would they need a geologist in space, right?
Yeah.
Well, they need everyone in space.
Well, but that's the thing, is what I'm learning is I think every industry needs everyone. A geologist is just like a hat, right? But
you're a person.
Yeah, but also the geology degree, or kind of any degree, I think it teaches you how to learn, or how to learn fast, and it's more about your people skills and how you communicate and everything. So if you have those core skills, I think everyone has the ability to kind of learn whatever job they fall into, right? And you can kind of tailor that. It's not necessarily you have to have this degree for this thing. Yeah, I think it's more broader.
Yeah, okay. And maybe one last thing to ask is something we ask all our guests at the end. Sorry, not every single one, but I think it's interesting. Is there someone that you kind of look up to, or you've learned a lot from, but not from a global scale, but from a local scale? I don't know, it could be any aspect of your life every day.
It could be a friend, it could be a work colleague, or whoever you.
I would besides my mum, I would say Andrew Cole, So the CEO of Oz, or used to be, he was really, I just really admired him. He was very personable, and he kind of treated every employee like it wasn't very hierarchical at all. Like he actually would just emphasize, like it was hot desking. I sat next to him one day and he was just having a chat. Like he was just a really nice leader, and I think he would do his best to update the entire company on macroscopic trends or like where the company's going in a really like personable way. And I just thought that was great. And he's just a cool guy.
Awesome. And that's something
that's the kind of leadership I want to have as well.
That's great. And that's great having those role models. Someone to look up to. Do you still keep in touch with him at all?
No, I think he's having the time of his life in a caravan.
Really? So he's left as well?
I think, he's taking a bit of a break after BHP took over. So,
okay.
A deserved break, yes.
Oh, that's so good. Well,
maybe we should have him. Maybe we should have him as a guest if you could reach him.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say an absolutely huge thank you for agreeing to come and talk. This is not someone I never thought I'd talk to a geologist. I don't know why. I only in TV shows in my head. But it's just been so insightful to hear this whole other side of the world that exists and that people work in. And you've been a pleasure to talk to, and you're very good at emphasizing and dumbing down things that mere mortals can understand.
I was so glad.
So.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
You.
It was really awesome.